and just the most important thing is just to be committed to some degree that this is what you want to start doing.
Because the goal is to know the love. I mean, it's not the goal is to separate and watch things objectively.
Right.
But it's to
Right.
experience
right.
the fullness of who you are.
Right. And as soon as you start practicing this and stepping into this more and more, you'll see that as soon as that fear or anger surfaces, you'll be conscious enough to identify with it, step back from it, and then it immediately dissipates. You're not contributing to it. You're not adding energy to it. And then the situation that you were either fearful or angry about dissipates. And you are just naturally then back into that compassionate, loving place. So it takes a bit of practice, but it works.
So because we're using words, because this is a talk show, what would you say are, like, you know, the 2 or 3 messages that the information you've gotten that would be, you know, the most important thing? To have compassion for yourself would be obviously somewhere in the top of the list, right?
Yeah.
What would some of the others be?
Well, again, stepping out of judgment and holding yourself in compassion. Because from that perspective then, there's many things that happen in the states of compassion. One comes to a greater sense of understanding of oneself. And in releasing oneself from those judgments, then we can hold the bigger picture for other people too, and understand that maybe they have behaviors that are irritating, but it's okay. They have human aspects. And then that gets translated, that is shared with everybody else, and everybody else sees that you have that potential, and they watch and see how you do this and handle yourself. And then they want to know, how do you do this? How do you stay in this peaceful space when your world is tumbling down? And I believe that the greatest responsibility we have to our world is first to come to that peace inside of ourselves and be happy. Just be as happy as we can be, and just love ourselves as much as we can. And then we can just spread that everywhere and dedicate it to these areas that are in strife and struggle. But really allow ourselves to be happy in this world as it is. But we can't do that unless we are happy with ourselves as we are, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, we really have to look at ourselves, you know, and see, in a sense, what the human condition is.
Right.
You know, the vastness of the human condition and what an extraordinary experiment it is here. And that it basically hasn't been easy for anybody in some ways. And that we all have those human characteristics that, you know, pop up and pop down and pop around.
Our scientists are talking about dark matter and such, and that they believe that there's just a very small percentage that is actual physical, and the rest is dark matter. And within dark matter exists that energy that moves all things in our galaxies. And if we can break that down and see ourselves in that, and use that as an opportunity to understand we're all the same. Whether we're looking at a galaxy, whether we're looking at our universe, or whether we're looking at ourselves, it's all the same. But when we start breaking it down like that, then we start finding that we have the capacity to hold this bigger picture, and we don't get lost in the details, and the details that continually separate us from ourselves and separate us from our potential, our highest loving potential.
We can do the details, but we just don't identify with them. We're not attached to them.
They don't, we aren't so immersed into them that that's all that we become. We understand that, yes, these aspects surface, this fear and anger, the detail of going in and having to wash dishes or scrub toilets, but it's not the only thing we identify with. We know that as we are that householder, as we are the banker, as we are this, as we experience fear, these are just all aspects of who we are, but there are many, 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 many more aspects, and we don't get lost in the details of the fact that that's the only thing that we are.
So, I mean, what you're doing in a sense is like creating a space where, like, the infinite can be seen. Because everybody has it.
Yes.
It just,
yes.
So it's like unwinding the onion or some semblance of something to create a time and a space, in human time and space, to know, oh, I am infinite.
Right. And we all express that, I believe, in different ways. I believe that we oftentimes realize ourselves through certain aspects. So if you look at the different deities and saints, they all express a certain aspect, and I believe that that's what we do also. So in experiencing these different aspects, then again, it's really important though that we understand it's just an aspect, and there's many other aspects for us to learn about too. But that's how we can start developing a relationship with ourselves. We may have a relationship with a saint or an angel or a deity, and we may be able to sit and feel into how we feel about that presence, that energy. And to the degree that we can feel that, then we own that for ourselves. And that's what I support people in doing, is realizing themselves in that way, but not get lost into only identifying
right, identifying with a certain Buddhism or a certain religion or a certain country or a certain sect or your teachings or...
Correct. No, the whole point is to support the individual in a way that they blossom. I may have energies coming through my body and et cetera, and it may express it a certain way through my system, but how does it express it through your system? And it's exciting to be able to encourage the individual to learn how to realize that for themselves.
To be their own flower,
yes,
to be their own
yes.
bloom.
And give them really specific dynamic tools to help them realize that. So it's not just sitting here and talking. It's a literal teaching process. Okay, let's do this and let's do that. And step by step by step. And all the while seeing that individual's highest loving potential, and all the while supporting that individual in that potential.
And people really like to be supported in that potential, obviously.
Absolutely. How many,
and we need, you know, I mean, that seems to be what we really need.
How many people do we have in our lives that can support us unconditionally and can see that really these aspects that surface are just that, that's all? And how do we not know that in a past life we've been crucified and etc., and so we contract when we're asked to be out there, or whatever it is. So if we have a bigger understanding of who we are, then we're much more capable.
So at different times you might even help people explore like past lives, or...
Not to give the mind something to do, but to be very purposeful in understanding who they are in the moment. Yes, because our minds have so much to do as it is, and
they're
they can
pretty
become,
busy.
Yeah.
Pretty busy, those little minds.
But oftentimes it's helpful to understand a past life experience, so that when we understand that there's a pattern in our life that is from a past life experience, so there's a pattern and energetic influence that supports us in this pattern that is a limiting experience for us, then we can come to an experience of compassion around ourselves in that understanding.
And it feels a lot better.
Yes, yes.
And it feels a lot lighter.
Yes.
And then we get lighter and lighter and lighter.
And then we can forgive ourselves.
Right.
So, and then the other thing that I believe is really important is, again, having very specific tools. Because it's not about just understanding this, but it's about, okay, what if I am in this situation? What do I do then? And then if there's a tool for that individual to use, it makes it much easier, and also it gives the mind something to do.
And even so, at some point we want to be in the place where, like, we don't want to even separate ourselves with a tool that we've become.
Absolutely,
that
that's
we know
the point.
That, yeah,
that's the point.
To know that and be natural in that experience.
The tool is just the bridge to heaven and earth.